Hey, welcome back to GFD Gaming. Today I got another game developer interview. We're going to be interviewing John, from the Retro Bro, the developer of Desert of the Undead. Check it out. I hope you guys like it. You can find the games in the description below. All right. Thanks for watching.
Okay. So what is your game development background? Do you have any?
Game development, no, I don't, but I do have a little bit of a coding background. I've always kind of found coding to be very interesting and fun. So when I was going back to probably the mid to late 90s, I used to make websites in HTML language, just full websites in HTML. And I used to just enjoy the process of using code to create an object. And I took programming classes in high school, so this is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But as far as game development, no, I had zero background in it coming into NES Maker and game development.
And did that have any help? Did that help you at all, having that HTML background and some of this coding?
Yes.
Desert.
Yeah, no, it did absolutely quite a bit, because you do have a basis of understanding of how code works. Now, assembly code is certainly different than HTML and JavaScript, but I noticed that it kind of almost flows the same way old school HTML does.
Okay.
Very language heavy. You don't use too many actual words in assembly code, so that wasn't super foreign to me. So yeah, I mean, it helped a little bit. Certainly, I feel like if I hadn't had that background, there would have been a little bit more of a learning curve to it. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been struggling with it. So,
I mean, there were certain things. I watched your interview with Board B, which was an amazing interview, by the way. And I watched so many of his videos early on that I used to hear that man's voice when I was laying in bed at night, because he was my go-to for how-to videos, because he does such a good job explaining it. I don't know if that's maybe because English is his second language, that he takes his time doing it, but he certainly he really does a good job of breaking it down, and he explains why you do things. The creator of NES Maker, Joe, is also a fantastic guy, but he knows so much. And I didn't know Board B was actually kind of new to this assembly code and programming. That was kind of shocking to me, but it actually kind of put things in perspective, because when you watch one of his videos versus a Joe Granato video, Joe knows so much and he's been coding for so long. It's like he almost forgets in his mind, he might be doing a simple task that seems really simple to him.
Yep.
And he will breeze by it, but it's a newbie or a beginner will miss that. And Board B does such a good job of breaking those little things down as he goes. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, that's a big reason I kind of gravitate to Board's videos over NES Maker. I still watch the NES Maker ones, but Joe goes so fast, like you said, and Board really, he breaks it down really well. He does a fantastic job. I hope he keeps making videos. So,
you too. Yeah.
So what made you want to develop Desert of the Undead?
Well, I got NES Maker. I just heard it through the grapevine. Someone was talking about it, and I was like, "Oh, that seems interesting to me." And at the time, I was kind of looking for because I've been on YouTube for almost 10 years, and I was kind of taking a step back to kind of find a new project. And I found NES Maker, and at first, I actually almost put it down, because I was like, this is too much work, and I don't know if I want to do this, but I paid $36 for it.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I paid money for it, so I'm going to get my money's worth. And then I really just started to dive into it. And then as I kind of got used to things, I was like, oh, you know what? I can actually make a game doing this. So then just kind of my goal at that point had become, I'm going to make something really basic but fun. Don't go too crazy, because I don't know that much. And it was really kind of just a challenge for me to see if I could do it. And it was a lot of fun along the way.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get the majority of the game done?
Well, as far as a time goes, I think I started messing around with NES Maker. I want to say probably the end of last year. And then I put the first version, which was buggy and I get all kinds of issues, man. I put it on Steam and itch around April. And so I've worked on it since then. Like I've certainly worked on a lot of bugs. I watched your video and there were some things that I caught that some people didn't catch or I didn't catch. So I was able to fix. That's a nice thing about Steam and itch and these digital platforms is you can fix something and upload an update within a few minutes.
Yeah. So I still have to play through it without some glitches. I think you fixed the last one I found. So
it was, I mean, it was glitchy. It was my first game. And I certainly actually really appreciated your video because, you know, my thing is like, hey, you know, if there's something wrong with it, I want to see it because I can hopefully fix it. Like there were some bad glitches early on, but yeah, I mean, from probably about December to April, but like I said, since April, then probably from April to August, I really spent time kind of just cleaning up the code, fixing some glitches. I changed some of the animations that some things like only I will notice, like on the most recent update, the scorpions in level 1. I didn't think there was enough movement because they almost looked like they were gliding. So I kind of made the tail like move a little bit when they walk. Little things like that. So quality of life improvements, but not very long. I mean, 5-6 months at the most.
Wow.
And it's finally at the point now where I feel comfortable to put it on physical and you know, feel confident in people having it on a Nintendo and feel like they got a complete game. So
that's awesome. Where did the idea for the whole game come from, or just?
It kind of just evolved, to be honest with you. I was, you know, watching a lot of board videos and I was like, well, what can I do? I was like, well, I can make a character that shoots and jumps. Okay, that's fun. And then I was like, well, what kind of atmosphere do I want to be in? So I used to live in Arizona years ago. And I was in the Navy too. I wasn't a Navy SEAL, but the background of the storyline of the game is a retired Navy SEAL. You know, he's a businessman. He goes away on a business trip and he comes back and his, you know, town's infested with zombies. So zombies is taking over the town. So he has to figure out what happened and pretty much kill all the zombies. So it was just a very basic premise with a kind of storyline that just I kind of made up one night. That seemed cool. like I mean, it's a Nintendo game. How much story do you really need? You know, so. It's it kind of just like evolved as it went. I mean, I went through so many like character designs. I mean, at one point he looked completely different. I'll have to share some old builds with you. I still have them.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see that.
Oh God, dude. I mean, it was a completely different game because I had a friend of mine, actually, the guy who does my podcast with me, Cyrus. He was kind of like my tester early on, and I would send it to. So I was like, the one day I said, hey man, do you still have all those old ROM files? He's like, I got them all. So he sent them to me and I actually went back and played a version like the other day when I was messing around. I'm like, oh my God, this is so different, you know? And but I spent, and when I tell you, I spent so much time because I'm the type of person who's like, when I start a project, and I was the same way when I make YouTube videos, like I have to finish it. Like I have to 100% that's all I did. So I would work, you know, I have a family. I would work, I'd take care of my kids, and then I'd be up to like 2 a.m. almost every night. Wow. Just and coding, dude, because like there was a lot that I didn't know. So simple coding for me would sometimes take forever. You know, just like how to add, because early on in the game, like one of the first builds that I had shared with some friends was the super ammo didn't do extra damage. It just went further across the screen. And my friend was like, dude, I don't really feel like I need to use it because it's pointless. He's like, can you make it do more damage? I'm like, yeah, I could probably do that. And then it took me hours to figure that out. So I was like all night trying to figure that out. And then I finally got it. Whereas like somebody who's been doing this for years, you know, some of the awesome NES devs in the community, probably would have taken them like 20 minutes to figure that out.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge for me. It was really fun to just kind of experiment and do those types of things. But even looking back now, it's like, man, I could have added so much more with the knowledge I have. But you know, I don't want to keep changing it because then it's like, you know, I don't want it to be a different game. So,
what was the most difficult part of creating the game?
It was Character animation, 100%. Character animation and kind of learning that NES Maker does have a lot of limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's, I mean, Joe will even tell you there's a lot of like bloated code in there because they used it to make their game. So there's a lot of like leftover code in there. So sometimes I would like I'd make a new character, a new monster, or I would change the physics somewhere and it would like completely break another area of the game. And I'm like,
wow.
Crap. Yeah, but I mean, it's the NES Maker forums are awesome because they've all run into these things.
I've
so
had
there was a lot of answers.
Good help from those forums myself.
Yeah.
So,
but for me, I'm not like an artist at all. So learning 8-bit animation is incredibly hard because you have to take an object, and you have to. All my early designs, they look like Legos. Like all my characters, they look like Legos. Because I didn't understand like how to use like for example, like the grass in the game, like on the first stage.
Mm-hmm.
I would just draw like a flat green on top with like some squares, and it looked like the first Mario Brothers, how like the ground is. And I'm like, I don't want it to look like that. How are these other guys making it to where it looks like there's texture there? So kind of like figure out how to like almost draw something, but then make it look like it's not a Lego. That was really hard, and I still struggle with that. Like animation because I'm already coding the sequel. Like the animation is like to get him to walk. A walking animation on a larger sprite is like, for me, it's very hard. Like, because it looks like they're floating, or they're like the one. He looks like he's almost like just like dragging his feet. I'm like, that doesn't look normal. So, but yeah, animation for sure was the hardest thing. Still is.
Yeah, I've spent so many hours trying to make a tree.
Yeah,
that doesn't look terrible. And I still think it probably looks terrible, but
you man, yeah, it's like anything else. Like the first thing you make is never. I mean, regardless of your skill level, is never going to look nearly as good as like the 10th thing you make. And I found that YouTube's the same way. Like I've gone back and looked at some of my early YouTube videos from 9 years ago, and I'm like, oh god, these were terrible videos.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know how I've watched some of my first YouTube video versus now, and I've only been making YouTube videos for like 4 months, and I can't believe the night and day difference in that short amount of time. So I can't imagine going years.
Yeah,
because you have a lot of polish, and on your YouTube channel it looks fantastic. Like,
thank you.
Your intros and everything. I've only watched maybe a few videos, but it looks fantastic to me. So one thing I was curious, did you have to scrap any ideas that were too ambitious for Desert of the Undead?
I would say no, but I did add, like I said earlier, I did add a lot after the fact. Because I went in like with a very basic knowledge of how to do this. So there wasn't anything I was like, oh, I want to do this, and then I couldn't do it. It was more like, well, I'm gonna do this because this is what I can do. And then as I learned, I kind of added to it, like I said earlier, with like the super ammo and some of the graphics in the game. And now, like I said, going back, there's so much more I could add. Like, for example, the bike stage. I wish I would have almost started that later because I learned a lot about physics. Like basically when I was done with the game, if I could go back and change it now, and I could, but it would completely change the way that levels played. I would make it more of like how Excite Bike is, where you can move up and down the road versus, you're kind of just on this even plane and it's auto scroll. Yeah. But I mean, the way the game is built, I think it works. A lot of people seem to like that area of the game. So
I like it. It's a nice change of pace from the rest of the game. It broke it up. I really enjoyed the motorcycle part.
Yeah, and that's what I was going for because initially, because I mean the game's fun, but I feel like to do that for the entire 4 stages or whatever it is, I think it might get repetitive. So it breaks it up a little bit. And then I was like, when I finished the game, I had a bunch of, I mean, you're familiar with NES Maker, so you have all those those extra screens. Yeah. I had like 3 rows of extra screens. I'm like, oh, I should make like just those all be bike levels, so you could play it that way and then get to a certain point in the game, so you can basically skip level. Well, I think it would be level stage 1 and stage 2, yeah, and most of stage 3. So I figured that would just be a nice addition. But yeah, as far as like actually having to scrap any ideas, no, I don't really think so.
Okay. Did you collaborate with anybody else on this game to either make music or graphics?
Yeah. So I was, when I first started really getting into NES Maker, I watched Joe Granato's tutorials on music, and I'm like, and he's like, well, you can do this without a keyboard. So I was like, okay, like an actual music keyboard. And then I realized you can, but you can't, because if you don't have any music background or you're not super familiar with the program, then it's hard, because that Famitracker is like a coding in and of itself how to make music. And I'm like, well, I'm learning NES Maker and assembly code. I don't really feel like I want to learn this part of it. So, I put in the forums. I was like, hey, is anybody good with music? I don't want to use, obviously, the stock music that's in NES Maker. So Sean from Arsene Productions reached out. And he's awesome, dude. I told him what I wanted. I was like, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking for. He sent me over some demos. And then we kind of collaborated to get the final soundtrack down, even to the point, actually, up until like a month ago, maybe less than that. I was like, hey, man, like, I need some more. I want to put a title soundtrack on there. And then when you beat the game, because I think when you beat it, it just warped to the last screen.
Yes.
But since then, I've actually changed it. So you go one screen over, the music changes, you go in a door, and then all the townspeople are in there. You have dialogue with them, go into the door, and then it goes to the game over screen. So he added music to those parts. But yeah, I mean, him, and then obviously like guys like Joe, Smile Hero in the forums, Dale Coop, those guys, like as far as coding help. Yeah, they were all phenomenal. But I did all the coding myself. They certainly helped out. I mean, I couldn't believe how like awesome some of these guys are, because I would post something in like even the Facebook group. I'm like, hey, and then they would message me and they're like, send me your code. And then I would spend an hour talking to them, and they're taking this time out of their own day. I'm sure they have families and things they got to do. And then they're willing to help everybody in the community. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really like the community so much, is because you have so many great people that are really just about the games and helping the community out. That's why the NES homebrew scene has really exploded. It's because of guys like that willing to help beginners. No other homebrew community has a community like NES Maker does. It's not even close.
I was going to say, I don't hear much about any, like maybe Game Boy, but even then, I don't think it's up near as much as NES Maker. Yeah,
there's a Intellivision homebrew community, but those guys, from my experience, from what I've seen, they're all very independent. It's very different there. It's very different.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I'm glad. Hopefully, I mean, they've already answered some of mine. I'm just kind of fiddling with my game here and there when I get some free time. I have a lot of other hobbies, so. But yeah, they've already helped me a fair amount with coding and at least where to look or stuff like that. So yeah, the NES Maker community has been fantastic with me as well. That actually kind of leads into my next question. What was it like to get a physical cartridge made? Did the NES Maker community help at all with that, or?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, NES Maker is built, I mean, in a way to where if you get the Mapper 30 boards, you can flash it right to the cart. And that's fantastic. And anybody can do that. I mean, Joe, I think their website, I always forget the name of it. Not the Retroverse. They sell their carts.
Yep.
They sell their carts, and but when you need like a lot, it's tough.
Where do you go for something like that?
Yeah. But again, it's one of those instances where I reached out to the community, and there's a group of people in there that are willing to help and get the right boards. There's people that do, and again, I'm not good with graphics, so there's people that will do, like, they'll make the boxes for you. Mm-hmm. My box design and my cartridge label design, I actually got that done through a guy on Fiverr. So he did my entire box design. and he did an awesome job. So then I took that. I reached out to Frank. He's in the Facebook group, so he's done tons of boxes and labels and even manuals for other of the some fantastic developers in the community. And I was like, hey, this is what I have. He's like, yeah, I can make a box. He sent me some boxes and some labels, and I was like, great. I'll open pre-orders after I got some boards from the other guy just to test them out, see if they work. Open pre-orders at that point because I felt confident, like, okay, these are the two guys I'm going to work with to get what I need. And then we're off to the races. So it wasn't too hard. Again, it's just utilizing the community and reaching out to the right people. That's really all it is. It's not cheap though. I mean, that's, people, I know there's people who will say like, oh, $60 for a complete in box NES game. Listen, developers aren't making much money.
No, I didn't think so.
A couple bucks off of each, one at the end of the day. But, you have to do it for the love of of the Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
I even joked to Joe one time. Joked to Joe, and we were talking about it. And I said, yeah, if I wanted to be rich, I wouldn't be making NES games.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine how much Kickstarter and stuff takes on top of that, doing all that too.
And that's why, because initially I was going to do Kickstarter, and then I started to look into how much they take, and it's like, okay, I would be making zero money. In fact, I might lose money if I don't do a big enough run. So, these guys that are having awesome success, I know recent ones, Steel Legion, Panzer, I mean, they've got some great traction on Kickstarter. But when you look at what they're taking, I'm like, yeah, man, it's not really worth it. Not for me. I mean, I'm sure when they're doing levels that they are, it's probably a little bit more worth it, but yeah.
And still, it's probably not as big as most people think it is.
No.
So I know you've obviously had to take quite a step back from your YouTube and streaming. Are you going to ramp that back up, or? Because it seemed like you were doing a lot more videos before.
Yeah, I certainly was. I mean, so when I started on YouTube, I was just doing like pickup videos and collecting videos, just talking about different games and that. And I really got into like highly edited videos to where I was actually like doing the graphics for it, using multiple sources and working with like green screen work and just challenging myself there to see what I could do. But some of those videos would take so much time, and I enjoyed it. But at the same time, I was looking for another project, like I said, and I still have ideas, like stuff I want to do. Like I've been wanting to do this history. NBA Jam's like one of my favorite games of all time. So I've been looking at like this history of NBA Jam that I've wanted to do. And I was actually going through my phone and deleting a bunch of old photos on my phone. And I saw the thumbnail I had made for that video like over a year ago. And I was like, I should do that. So, I mean, there's certain things I want to do. The landscape on YouTube has changed a lot too. It's a lot different from when it was like 9 years ago. But I'm still doing stuff. Like I still do the podcast with my buddy Cyrus, and I still want to do stuff. It's time consuming, and at the moment, like I want to take that time as well to do other things, like work on the sequel for the next game and challenging myself there.
Mm-hmm.
So
is there? Yeah, I guess. What does the future of your YouTube channel look like? Are you going to do any more of those?
Yeah, I'll do
history videos.
Yeah, because I like them, and they do really well. A lot of people get a kick out of them. Like that 90s top 10 graphics was like the best console graphics of the 90s or whatever. That one did really well. That took me like a week to make that one video. So I like doing stuff like that, and I don't know, man. To be honest with you, I don't know if I'm going to do more of those types of videos because it's insanely time consuming. But they are fun. Like I do like doing them. But I'm still going to have the podcast that we do once a month, the Buddy Cop Retro Show.
Oh, yeah. I've enjoyed that.
Actually,
so far.
I think we're going to have one. I think we have one coming up. I think we're going to record next weekend.
Oh, nice.
Record. There's a lot to talk about. Gaming landscape has been crazy.
And then I guess my last question is, I don't know, you got a favorite homebrew game or a NES game?
Probably Steel Legion. I really enjoy that one. It's hard as nails. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to play that, but they did a Kickstarter. They have their demo on Retroverse. That's a fantastic game. It reminds me a lot of. You ever play Journey to Silius on the Nintendo?
Yes. Yep.
It reminds me a little bit of that game. It's way harder though. Journey to Stelios is a hard game. I think Steel Legion actually might be a little bit harder.
Oh, nice. I did back that one. I actually just watched a video of it though. I never actually played the demo, so I backed
You'll
that
enjoy
one.
it. Yeah, you'll enjoy it. It's a fantastic game. There's so many good devs, man, in the community. It's unbelievable some of the work these guys and to think that they're using NES Maker, and it's like, wow, you did all this with NES Maker.
Yeah.
You know, people. It's funny because I think on the surface, people will see NES Maker as like something like RPG Maker. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, I remember it.
Yeah, it's just preloaded assets for everything. And NES Maker, I think it's better to compare that to something like Unity, like because you could take Unity and make any game you want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, NES Maker is that you can make any Nintendo game you want with any types of physics, and the more you learn in coding, you can change things. And yeah, it's a crazy platform. I really enjoy it. So
Well, that's awesome. Well, hey John, thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to talk with me. I really appreciate it.
No, and dude, thank you, and just keep covering those games because you've actually covered a couple games that I hadn't heard of before that I looked into.
Yeah, if you know any.
Also, I wanted to ask you what are the pictures behind you? I was real curious about those.
Oh, I don't. A friend of mine has a friend who's an artist, and he was just gonna throw these out. So I was like, hey, they're kind of weird and cool looking, so I threw them up down in my basement.
My daughter, she draws. She's extremely talented. She draws anime.
Oh yeah, nice.
I told her, I was like, you should draw them and like sell them because they're if I were to tell you a 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old drew these, you'd be like, no way. She's incredibly talented, but it's kind of like, I mean, that's not anime, but it still has that almost like different art style to it.
Yeah. I don't know the guy's name, or my buddy was just holding on to him for like 10 years, and finally he was like, I'm throwing these away if you want any of them. So I was like, yeah, I'll take some. Some of them are kind of creepy and weird, cool looking, I thought. So
I had to start limiting some stuff I had in my basement because it was getting to the point where I just had stuff everywhere. I'm like, I gotta dial this back a little bit.
Yeah, I got concert posters and all kinds of arcade machines.
Oh, I would love. Do you have original arcade machines?
So the only original I have is Pole Position. That's my all-time favorite arcade machine, and I've been trying to beat or tie the world record of it for the last 2 years, and I'm stuck at like 2,000 points away. So
are you in the speedrunning community at all?
No.
So I'll tell you a funny story because this relates to my game. A couple of friends of mine who are also on YouTube, they're really into the speedrunning community, and they knew I made a game, and they started playing it, and they created a speedrunning page for it. The one guy beat my game in like 11 minutes. It's insane. I can't even beat you. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
So a lot of the bugs that were fixed were because these speedrunners were playing the game so fast that they would find things that I would have never found. So I was able to go back and fix them. And some of the things that they found, I elaborated on. So you saw that one area I posted on my channel where there was like a higher platform, and there's like it looks like there's no way to get there. One of the speedrunners, he found like a glitch in the. It's actually a glitch in NES Maker. It's like a collision thing you have to change. If like if you have like a hurt block too close to a solid block, you could like go through it. And if you're not set to go to the next screen on your character, you'll jump in from the top. So he was using that glitch to like go underneath and then run across the top of the level, kind of like you do in Mario. And I was like, oh, I can use that. So initially I had a 1-up on that platform to get that like secret 1-up. But then another friend of mine, he's like, dude, your game's too hard, man. Like, can you make it so you have infinite lives? Because I changed the game so when you beat it, you can replay with infinite lives. He's like, can you do that for the beginning of the game? I was like, all right, here's what I'll do. I put a door there, and then you warp into like a secret area, and then you can get a thing to get infinite lives.
Oh, nice.
So utilize. So my advice to new devs is utilize. If you know anyone in the speedrunning community, have them play their game have them play your game because they'll be able to find some stuff you'll never find.
That's good advice, man. I never thought about that. That's awesome. So are you into also like arcade machines and stuff like that?
No, and that's because I just don't have the room. My oldest just turned 18. She graduated. I don't know how many years she has left, but I already told her. I said, when you move out, I'm buying some arcade machines. I'm putting you.
I would love to get into like pinball machines too. I think I like working on stuff like that. So
that's a big community. The pinball community is a big community. I haven't played an original pinball machine probably since I was like 10 years old. It's been forever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they used to have them at the pizza place.
Yeah.
Remember the one pizza place I used to go to? They'd have like 3 or 4 of them when I was a kid. Of course, now they don't have them anywhere. You have to like go to these like special arcade places or whatnot. But
we have a couple good bars here in St. Louis that have a fair amount of pinball machines that I usually hit up once or twice a month. But they have like pinball leagues and stuff there. It's super cool.
Oh, wow. Sounds fun. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I won't take up any more of your day, and enjoy your Sunday.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for the opportunity to share this with everyone, man. And like I said, keep doing your thing.
Yeah, thanks, man. And you too. Can't wait for the next one to come out. And I plan to see if I can download the new updated version of Desert of the Undead right after this and see if I can do a run through of it. So
yeah, just don't kill me if you find any bugs.
All right, have a good day, man. Thanks again.
Take it easy, brother.